Good evening. Welcome to Tucker Carlson tonight. We're going to devote the entire next hour to a single interview, something we've never done before. In this case, it's a conversation with a man called Tony Bobulinski. Bobulinski is the former business partner of James and Hunter Biden, of course, the brother and the son of the current Democratic candidate. A lot has been written about Hunter and James Biden recently, but our story is not about them tonight, sleazy and shocking as some of those details are. The story we're about to tell you is instead about Joe Biden, the man who just days from now could be elected president of the United States. Joe Biden, and we can tell you this with certainty, had direct personal involvement with his family's business dealings in communist China and likely in other countries as well. The former vice president, of course, has vehemently denied that. He is lying. Tonight we can prove that. Before we begin, a word about Tony Bobulinski. Bobulinski is not a conventional whistleblower. He has no political agenda. To the extent he has supported candidates in the past, he's given exclusively to Democrats. Nor is he seeking money now from this story. This is not a shakedown of the Bidens or of anyone else. Bobulinski is already rich, significantly rich. He is a significant figure in American finance. And that's exactly why the Biden family sought him out in the first place. They had no idea how to structure the deals they hoped to cash in on, so they enlisted Tony Bobulinski to do it for them, to do the math. Now they're attacking him as an agent of Russian disinformation. And that's why Bobulinski is appearing on this show. It is an effort to clear his family's name of that slur. He had no choice. The rest of the national media have suppressed his story. Reporters have ignored, intentionally ignored, and in many cases dishonestly distorted scores of documents proving that Bobulinski's account is true. Never in American history have more power centers in this country aligned to kill a legitimate news story in the days before an election. That's what's happening right now. If you're looking for a real threat to our democracy, an actual threat, you're watching it unfold. We're seeing it firsthand. Last night, we experienced an extraordinary attempt to interfere with our reporting on the Biden family. We'll bring you details on that soon. But for now, here is Tony Bobulinski's story.
My mom didn't know she was going to die.
Oh, God. Oh, no.
Story. We recorded this interview with him a few hours ago in a hotel in Los Angeles. So, Tony, your connection to this deal came through James Gilliar, who's an English businessman who you, correct me if I'm wrong, you had met while doing business in various different countries. You talked about doing deals. Then on Christmas Eve 2015, he sent you the following text, which explained the deal with China that he wanted you to become part of. And I just want to read the first sentence of this. There will be a deal between one of the most prominent families from the U.S. and them constructed by me.
Yes, that's correct.
Tell me what he was saying.
So James Gilliar was referencing something that he had been working on throughout 2015 with Rob Walker and a Chinese company called CEFC. And he had been traveling around the world developing that deal. And that text was just the culmination of him making me aware that the deal was moving forward.
So he doesn't say, I want to do a deal with you and me and Hunter Biden, or even you, me, Hunter Biden, and Jim Biden. He said, between one of the most prominent families from the United States. He's talking about the Biden family.
Yes, that's correct. It was never about Hunter Biden or Jim Biden. It was about the family name, the Biden legacy.
At this point, Joe Biden was the sitting vice president of the United States.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so I want to fast forward to 2017, early May 2017. And at this point, you've agreed to become part of this deal. Hunter Biden, Jim Biden, the vice president's brother, James Gilliar, and they're asking you to meet with the former vice president in Los Angeles. Describe the context, describe why they wanted you to meet with him.
Okay, across those days in Los Angeles in May of 2017 that you're referencing, I met with Hunter Biden multiple times at the Chateau Marmont and Rob Walker. And the discussion was they wanted me to sit down with their father just to meet him and at a high level discuss the Biden family and how they approach things.
Let me ask you to pause. Will you explain to us who Rob Walker is?
Yeah, Rob Walker was a partner in Rosemont Seneca and had a very close relationship with the Biden family and had developed and been working with James Gilliar throughout 2015 and 2016 to develop this deal with the Chinese and CFC.
What was his relationship with the Biden family?
So my understanding is Rob had worked in prior administrations and had a very, very close relationship. In fact, in Rob Walker's own words, in an email to me, he states that everyone was contributing or telling me how they wanted to participate in Sinohawk. And in an email, he basically states, in his own words to me, I want to continue acting as a proxy for Hunter Biden, Jim Biden, and the Bidens around the world.
The Biden family.
The Biden family.
So they wanted you to meet with the former vice president in LA. How did
Yes,
that play out?
That's correct. The former vice president was flying in, and we were to meet at the Beverly Hilton. The Milken Conference was going on, obviously one of the top 3 conferences in the world for anybody that's a global investor or developing different humanitarian causes and a variety of things. And Joe was flying in to speak about the cancer and the moonshot stuff he was working on. And Hunter and everyone was in town, and they wanted to coordinate me meeting with Joe. And so it was set up for the night of May 2nd at the Beverly Hilton. I first met with Hunter Biden and Jim Biden, and just had a light discussion where they briefed me that, listen, my dad's on the way, and we won't go into too much detail on the business front, but we'll just spend time talking at a high level about you, your background, the Biden family, and then he's got to get some rest because he's speaking at the conference in the morning.
So this was at night. The vice president, just flown across the country. He's an older man. He's got work to do.
Correct.
But they carved out a piece of his schedule for you to meet with him. Why would they do that?
Because they were sort of wining and dining me and presenting the strength of the Biden family to get me more engaged and want to take on the CEO role and develop Sinohawk both in the United States and around the world in partnership with CEFC. And as you can imagine, I've been asked by 100 people over the last month, why would you be meeting with Joe Biden? And I sort of
Time and time again, the mainstream press has been dead wrong when it comes to the stock market.
turn the question around to the people that asked me, why at 10:38 on the night of May 2nd would Joe Biden take time out of his schedule to sit down with me in a dark bar at the Beverly Hilton, sort of positioned behind a column so people couldn't see us, to have a discussion about his family and my family and business at a very high level, where Jim Biden sat and Hunter Biden participated in. I'm irrelevant in the story. They weren't raising money from me. There was no other reason for me to be in that bar meeting Joe Biden than to discuss what I was doing with his family's name in the Chinese CFC.
And this is a company with direct connections to the Communist government of China. So the former vice president has said he had no knowledge whatsoever of his son's business dealings and was not involved in them at all. But this sounds like direct involvement in them.
Yeah, that's a blatant lie. When he states that, that is a blatant lie. Obviously, the world's aware that I attended the debate last Thursday. And in that debate, he made a specific statement around questions around this from the president. And I'll be honest with you, I almost stood up and screamed liar and walked out because I was shocked that after 4 days or 5 days that they prepped for this, that the Biden family is taking that position to the world. And once again, I'm irrelevant in this discussion. I just was brought in to run this company and have been exposed to all of this fact. And I believe the American people should see this fact. I would have much preferred the Biden family go on record and define these facts for the American people and the globe versus me sitting here having a discussion with you on it.
So Joe Biden has not denied meeting with you in Los Angeles, correct?
Correct.
Tell us about the conversation that you had with him.
So I initially was sitting, because I got there a little earlier, was sitting with Jim Biden and Hunter Biden. And Joe came through the lobby with his security, and Hunter basically said, hey, give me a second. I'll go over and give me 10 minutes to brief my dad and read him in on things. And so then Hunter and his father and security came through the bar. And obviously I stood up out of respect to shake his hand. And Hunter introduced me as, this is Tony, Dad, the individual I told you about that's helping us with the business that we're working on and the Chinese.
So it was clear to you that Joe Biden's son had told him about this business deal.
Crystal clear.
Crystal clear. Tell us about the conversation that subsequently occurred between you and Joe Biden.
So the conversation, as you're well aware, Tucker, I grew up the son of a career naval officer. So the president of the United States was always the commander in chief, whether they were a Democrat or Republican or other. And so I had the highest respect for Joe and the the office that he had held. And so I stood up and shook his hand, and obviously we sat down and I think ordered some drinks. I think Jim Biden was hungry and might have ordered some food. And Joe asked me to talk about my background, my family. He thanked me for my service. I'm obviously very proud of that, proud of my brother's service and my grandfather's service. And then he walked through sort of his family, obviously some of the tragedies they've dealt with, his political career in a high level. We didn't go into too much detail in business because prior to Joe showing up, Hunter and Jim had coached me. Listen, we won't go into too much detail here. This is just a high-level discussion and meeting. So it's not like I was drilling down with Joe about cap tables and details.
So you said that they wanted you to meet Joe Biden as a way to induce you to participate in this deal. You were the actual business guy here who had management experience, deal experience. But it also sounds like Joe Biden was vetting you to some extent.
Yes, of course. I didn't request to meet with Joe. They requested that I meet with Joe. And, he's putting his, and Hunter says this in writing, it was referenced multiple times, they were putting their entire family legacy on the line. They knew exactly what they were doing. They were dealing with a Chinese-owned, enterprise run by Chairman Yi, CFC, that had strong financial support and political support from the Chinese Communist Party. That's how it was presented to me. That's not my own words. That's how they presented it to me and read me in on it. And
they being Gillier and Hunter Biden.
They being Hunter Biden, who was very proud of that and taking credit for it when I sat with him for 2 hours on the patio of the Chateau Marmont in L.A.
Proud that they were doing a deal with the Chinese Communist Party?
Well, proud that he had the relationship with Chairman Yi, who was running CFC, and the ability for them to get deals done around the world and stuff like that.
You've seen a number of journalists, reporters covering this story, including some who should know better, declare triumphantly that no document you've released connects the former vice president to this deal. How do you react to that? What's your answer to it?
So you can imagine what I've been through over the last couple months, and knowing all this to be fact, and watching Joe Biden and his family and their lawyers trout around the world stating that there was no involvement, or even at the debate, Joe Biden referenced that you've seen my tax returns and there's no money from foreign, enterprise and that. I want to simplify this for the American people as much as I can. On May 13th, that email was sent from James Gillier to me. I didn't generate that email. James Gillier generated that email. And in that email, James Gillier goes through intimate detail of what each individual's requests were from a compensation perspective and how the equity in the enterprise would be divvied up. Very important. May 13th, that email was generated by somebody else to me. In that email, there's a statement.
Hey everybody, stop clicking around. I am in the woods with some water going in the background near my house.
Where they go through the equity. Jim Biden's referenced as 10%, doesn't say Biden, it says Jim. And then it has 10% for the big guy held by H. I 1,000% sit here and know that the big guy is referencing Joe Biden. That's crystal clear to me because I lived it. I met with the former vice president in person multiple times, and I had been meeting and talking with Hunter Biden and Jim Biden and Rob Walker and James Gillier. Where the media has tried to hide, and I personally feel it's disgusting, is between that May 13th email and the final document that was executed called Oneida Holdings LLC. In Oneida Holdings LLC, the equity is broken up 20% Hunter Biden, 20% Jim Biden. Well, there are LLCs that represented them.
Right.
20% James Gillier, 20% Rob Walker, and 20% me and my investment entity. What I'd ask the American people to read and look at is how from May 13th to the final Oneida document that got executed, did Jim Biden go from a 10% owner to a 20% owner? That's not my question to answer. I'm sure there were discussions within the Biden family. I wasn't privy to that discussion. But this is Jim Biden, the brother of the potential future president of the United States. It's not a distant cousin. It's not an employee. It's his brother who, in documents, defines himself as a political advisor to his brother. And so I'll leave that to the American people to answer that. But I don't understand how the American journalist is allowing that gap to be even talked about and defined.
So, and I should say, and I want to put the document on the screen, in his pitch to the Chinese, in his bio, Jim Biden describes himself as an advisor, a current advisor to his brother. So was it clear to you from the beginning that what Jim Biden was bringing to this deal was his relationship with Joe Biden?
Yeah, 1,000%, crystal clear.
Hi, this is Paul.
After I met with Joe Biden the morning of May 3rd at the Milken conference, and then was taken backstage after Joe had spoken, you know, we joked around for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then I walked him out to his car. I think he was, I think they referenced he was off to see the lieutenant governor.
This is Joe Biden.
Joe Biden, yes.
Yeah.
And then after that, I went over to the Peninsula Hotel and I sat with Jim Biden for 2 hours, where Jim Biden walked through his history and his own words, stating all the work and effort he did to get Joe Biden elected initially in Delaware, and then through the family history and the role that he had played in it. And in that meeting, remember, I'm the son of a naval officer. I'm a naval officer, was a naval officer myself. And because I held a Q clearance, which is the equivalent of a top secret clearance, we're audited every year. So if you receive a gift, I think the barrier was $25. Anything larger than $25, we had to disclose it to the government, because obviously anybody with the clearance, the government is watching closely that they're not influenced by the Russians, the Iranians, the Chinese, and stuff like that. So as I was listening to Jim walk through this, I have a big heart. If you talk to anybody who knows me, they would weigh in on that. I'm a kind person, and I'm thinking about the Biden family. Like, how are they doing this? I know Joe decided not to run in 2016, but what if he ran in the future? Aren't they taking political risk or headline risk? And I remember looking at Jim Biden and saying, how are you guys getting away with this? Like, aren't you concerned? And he looked at me and he laughed a little bit and said, plausible deniability.
He said that out loud?
Yes, he said it directly to me, one-on-one in a cabana at the Peninsula Hotel after about a hour and a half, 2 hour meeting, with me asking out of concern, how are you guys doing this? Aren't you concerned that you're going to put your brother's future presidential campaign at risk? The Chinese, the stuff that you guys have been doing already in 2015 and 2016 around the world. And I just can almost picture his face where he sort of chuckles and says, plausible deniability.
So he said, this is a man who's been drafting off his brother's political career for almost 50 years. He said to your face, essentially, we're lying about it.
Anyone watching this interview can look up what plausible deniability means, and the definition is very distinct.
That's remarkable. So I just want to back up a second, just to be clear. You met with Joe Biden twice.
Yes, that's correct.
What did he say to you after? So he gives his speech at the Milken conference. And by the way, this is all checkable, right? I mean, that was a public event. You can Google it.
Well, you can go to Milken. They had to issue me. I wasn't attending Milken, so they had to issue me special credentials. A whole team walked out into the valet, the Beverly Hilton, and walked me into that speech that he gave and sat me at the head table in front of everyone. So this is more than checkable. I'm sure there's photos or documentation.
Whether you are managing horse health, shopping for vaccines, supplements, and medications, or searching for the
and stuff like
that. The press corps doesn't seem to be rushing to verify this. It's checkable because it's true. And the fact you may be hearing some of it for the first time here tells you everything about the lying the rest of us have been subjected to for the past 6 weeks. When we come back, Tony Bobulinski will tell us what he and Joe Biden discussed as they were backstage in Los Angeles at the Milken conference. in May of 2017. And he will respond directly to claims by the former vice president and many other Democrats that he is working against American interests for a hostile foreign power. That's straight ahead.